Hello, lovers. So I'm going to say lovers today because it is the month of love. So hi, lovers. Welcome to the 7th episode of Real Talk with Claudia. Today, we're talking about all things love, and it's very relevant, you know. And speaking of love, I get into the studio and from the team, I get a huge surprise that the podcast has received a package. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the podcast is already at a stage where it's receiving packages. So you and I today have a special event to unpack here. So yeah, I'll be talking, but from time to time, we'll see the entire package, what is inside, all right? So stay with me. Now, talking of Valentines, you ever asked yourself, where does Valentine's come from? Just to give you a little bit of a background, this dates back to the 3rd century. So there is a Saint Valentine who was martyred because I know the pronunciation is a little bit confusing. So it is Martyr. I always have to remind myself the pronunciation. Who was martyred because he used to wed soldiers who were forbidden to get married under the emperor, under the ruling of the Roman Empire. Why am I jittering? Under the rule of the Roman Emperor Claudius II. Now, the interesting thing is that he restored the sight of his jailer, and just before he is executed on the 14th of February, he sends off a letter. And when he sends this letter to the daughter of his jailer, he writes, "Your Valentine." Now, I guess it is making sense why today during the Valentines, we are sending cards, we're sending roses, we're doing all of those sweet gestures. But before we go any further, let us see our first Valentines. Wait. First of all, can you please reveal yourself? Who got us this package? Secondly, how did you know I love coffee? It's either you're trying to make me fall in love with you, or you're so in love with the podcast. I mean, Starbucks. I'm nothing without coffee nowadays. I'm nothing without coffee. So the podcast truly appreciates this. And please highlight if it's for the team or it's for Claudia. Anyway, more to come. Let us move on. Now, you have a little bit of a background on where the Valentine's Day is coming from. Now, let us discuss love. What is love? Have you ever thought about what is love? I think this is a very contemporary conversation that is complex and confusing. For me, I'm so excited to talk about this because for the past 2 years, it is something that I'm thinking about deeply, trying to understand. And I think it's just one of the hardest things to define. Philosophers, poets, scientists have tried to describe love over time, you know, and they group it into familial love, into platonic love, friendship love, into unconditional love, into romantic love. But what do you think about it? So when we look up love, its pure definition, it is feelings of affection, attraction, and commitment. But according to me, I tend to resonate more with the commitment. I feel like attraction tends to make it more on just lust and infatuation. For me, it feels like love is something more complex, deeper, and more difficult because of the commitment bit. Basically meaning that it is a choice. It is something that you choose to embody every day. So when you choose to love somebody, you're just making the commitment that out of the many options that exist out there in the world, I'm going to choose you. And that speaks for romantic love. And then, you know, some people will talk of familial love, like mothers love their children. We see it in animals. Animals would die for their cubs. And that is like love, and love as being this unconditional thing. And I tend to struggle with believing that love is unconditional. I totally do not adhere to that. But so many things happen in life, and I've just been having a lot of epiphanies that one day you might think of a certain thing in a certain way until something happens and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm experiencing unconditional love. But, so many people talk about how we fall in love with the way that people make us love ourselves. So basically, not that we love them, we just fall in love with how they make us feel about ourselves. And sometimes they'll talk about religious love that is unconditional. As for myself, I feel like it is unconditional. I was making an example of parents that they would say they love their children. And for me, it's like, it comes with conditions. I love you for as long as you can do this, or you can behave this way, or you make me feel good about myself. And if it is not all of those things, I'm like, maybe you just probably fall in love with the fact that I'm an extension of yourself. You see bits of yourself in myself, or you're able to achieve your dreams through me. I just struggle to understand it as being something that is unconditional. Now, let me explain why is that? I'll make an example. Let's say I kill somebody. Ne? Does love still love then? Do I go report you to the police? Do I still have the same level of respect and trust for you? Am I still patient with you? Am I still able to hang around you? Does it have limits? Does it have boundaries? Some people will talk about how God loved us so much, he sent his son to come and die for our sins. But it's like, there's so many rules and regulations and principles that you have to stick to, right? In order to be worthy of that love. You don't do these things, you'll go to hell, you'll get punished. So does love have any limits? Does it have any boundaries? Where does it begin? Where does it end? But anyway, let me just try to go a little bit back to give you context into how I arrived into my conclusions. Now, let me take you back to a time, the medieval age, which is basically from the 5th century way to the 1500s. Now, love is regarded as something that is tied to economics, to resources, to religion, to libidinal purposes, to obligations. Marriage is tied to that. So basically, people didn't get married just because, oh my gosh, I met this person and I feel so much in love, I'm crazy about them. But it was things related to resources, to economics, to social status, to just social constructs and gains, and now this is something that transitions towards the 15th century, where now there's courtly love, and courtly love is basically knightly deeds where people show and express their admiration for the next person through grand gestures, through songs, through poetry. So when you look back, this is something that it doesn't exist. And over time, with love evolving, now this is basically how we can describe love. Going back to the Valentines, it is something that becomes commercialized as time goes by, and people express that they love each other through sending each other gifts, through roses, through dinners. So it is definitely something that is evolving. Now, when you come into the essence of it, what are you going to say love is? And you're probably like, oh, Claudia, this is not the version of love that we want to hear about. We want to hear about the rosy bits that we watch in movies, where you get grandiose dates, trips, and gifts. We want to talk about the unconditionality part of things because we're building a community again. And I'm like, yes, I want love to be that as well. But I think partly it is why we fail at love so much, because then we get disappointment. Eventually we are disappointed when we start relationships, when we get into friendships, when you study into the family dynamics, and you start realizing that probably love is conditional. In order for me to be accepted or treated the right way, or to be even cared for or to receive empathy, I need to do certain things. I need to give to people. Like, no one is able to accept me at the rawest forms. So interesting thing. When I come here, I asked my taxi driver, today I'm recording the podcast and I'm going to be talking about love. And what would you like for me to say to the people about love? And he says, love is about equality. I'm like, yeah, explain it to me. And he says, you need to love me because you love me, and I love you because I love you. Not you loving me because I love you. Okay. And he goes on to talk about how for most women, they've tied love to what a man can do for them. And I'm like, oh, so do you think women have screwed up the idea of love? And, he makes an example of how Valentines is coming up, and there's probably someone who's going to get a Raptor or a gift that costs 150,000. And I'm dating you. I can't get you an 150,000 gift. And then you're going to feel like I don't love you. Yet you don't understand the depth of my pockets. So women have tend to associate love to what they can get, materialistic things and money, and he talks about how love is supported by money instead of money supporting love, something along those lines. And, for me, again, it speaks to the unconditionality of things. I think there's an ideal where we wish love was very unconditional. But when you come to experience life at the depth of everything, it is very unconditional. I normally make an example about how people like to talk about how women are the only people that are loved unconditionally in this world, women and children, because a man can date a woman from a vulnerable background, a poor background. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. But don't you think that person has conditions? They'll look for a morally upright woman. They'll look for a woman who will represent them well in community. They'll look for someone who's beautiful. They'll look for someone who's young. They'll think about, I'll be able to mate and get children out of this person. So all of these things make love conditional, no matter how altruistic or primitive it is. But it just makes everything conditional at the end of the day. Let's see another gift. What's in here? Oh my word. A filter. I've never used this. I don't even know how to open this. Starbucks is gonna be backing. I don't know how to use this. But thank you so much. I'll check out the manual. But look. So this is a symbol of love, right? And it's making me smile and blush and everything. And that's the thing about love. Love can be facilitated by acts, I guess. But like without gifts, can we feel love in relationships? I was reading an article once looking at the causes of divorces in Eswatini, especially around the pandemic time. And it shows that the divorce cases were spiraling because a lot of men lost jobs. And for me, again, it births the question about love. What is love? So many divorces. Did these people get into the marriage because they felt so in love? And then now when money flies out the window, why do they get divorced? Why can't they stay together? And, I think social media contributes to this, to love being such a complex thing, because even if you want to, even in areas where the purest of love would exist, it makes it hard, because when you go out to people, I normally notice, like, when you meet somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, I met this person, I really like them. The first question that people are going to ask is, oh, what does it do for you? Or what has it done for you? Or things like that. It's never about how do you feel about them, and maybe it's in the wording of things. I think maybe the choice of words would contribute, but it just sounds like uwendelani. So I think even the one person that you'd feel like, oh my gosh, the friendship is there. I like them so much. I feel good when I'm around them. When you go back to your circle of people and the first thing they ask is that, it just makes it so hard, because you start questioning whether, well, do they truly love me because they can't do 1, 2, and 3 for me? So it makes it hard. But at the same time, it's like, gifts make friendships warm. Gifts make relationships warm. And as the generation of today, we're left in such a complex and such a complicated situation of, how are we going to describe love? How are we going to define love? It's a hard one. And looking into modern day age, it's like love has become something much more accessible. When you looked at maybe in the medieval age, one person wouldn't even come across 500 people. But now we live through an age whereby we go to festivals, we travel, the social media, the dating apps, ultimately meaning that love would be more accessible. But it's just become much more harder because there are so many expectations around love. There's dates, we want gifts, we want all the things that we see on social media, and leaving most of us lonely and sad and feeling like we are not loved because we're not receiving all of these things, and ultimately leaving all of us lonely. But let's say now we want to try, amidst love being complicated as it is. How would we even begin to start? How would we even begin to try? So Dr. Gary Chapman goes on to share about the 5 love languages, which I think most of us are familiar with. And during this Valentines season, it's like, how could you show somebody? How could you show your partner? How could you show your friend? How could you show your family that you love them? And the first one that I'm going to talk about is words of affirmation. And the good thing about words of affirmation is that even if we would ping love to, we would associate it with materialistic things, words of affirmation are very free. That all it takes is you practicing to speak, right? I love you. I care about you. I miss you. And just assuring each other. And, you know, one of the things I normally think about that makes it hard for us to express love, it is because of our diverse backgrounds, especially in our poor countries. One of the things I've realized is that love amongst people from a higher class or high income earners to middle income earners to low income earners, love is expressed entirely differently. Even in between cultures, in between countries, it's very different. Having started working with Westerners, I've noticed that for them, loving is just a privilege. I'm with you because I want to. It's not so much about poverty. It's not so much about what can I get out of you. I'm literally with you because I want to be with you. And for us, this side, I think we're still a little bit backward because of our economy and our situations, you know. For some people to have access to land, maybe, they still need a man as a bridge. So everything is an encompass there. Yes, I love you, but also you are a bridge. Logunye, one of the things I've had one man say, I have to get married because ngisho ngenda letinye timva ngisathatheke serious because ngide umfati. You understand? So that is very culturally. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to care for you and love you, but also you are a means to me getting that kind of status in society. So it's a difficult one. But as much as in our areas, we probably use love as a means to an end or a bridge, I think we can try and immerse these things into our culture as well. So starting off with the words of affirmation. So when was the last time you told your friend that you love them? Do you tell your partner often that you love them? Do you tell your friends that you love them? Do you give compliments to strangers? Because basically that is how we build communities, you know. One of the things I noticed is that sweet words really heal the heart. So the more we get used, the more we tell each other these sweet words, the more we're going to heal each other. I was talking about backgrounds being different. You find that you grow up and eventually you get into a relationship with a person or you form a friendship with a person. And that person was abused. The environment didn't cultivate love. Love was like an actualization thing. The most important thing was survival. You know, So that person witnessed love from a distance. And you know, when they say we are shaped, our ability to love is shaped by how we've been loved. If we've been poorly loved, it is going to be difficult for us to give love and receive love. So I think the good place to start is just by using the words. And so much that I think the more you're like, even if one in a relationship because of infatuation or they were a bridge to start off, but the more you use the words like, I love you, I miss you, how was your day, you look lovely, the more you create the love within yourself. And I think it goes back to me talking about how love is conditional and we fall in love with how people make us feel about ourselves. We literally have to build love from time to time. We need to put in the effort to feel it from time to time. And first off, by using these sweet words, we're going to create the love within ourselves. Now, the other love language is acts of service. What are acts of service? You know, do the clothes. It's basically just reading. The beautiful thing that I once learned while reading on femininity is that women should basically have the ability to anticipate needs. So your partner comes back from work, probably you need to be able to anticipate that they'll probably be hungry, prepare them a nice meal, or even give them a massage. So those are acts of service. Those are acts of kindness. And which is why I think people normally say that get in a relationship with someone who is kind. Understand that as much as we used to have these gender roles in the past, clearly love is evolving. So as a man, be comfortable with you're going to do the dishes. You know, I came across one entrepreneur one day and she was like, I hate ironing. And my partner does it for me. And I feel like that is an act of service. It's going beyond the gender roles to say maybe initially we know this is more of a feminine role, but I think one of the beautiful things that I hear nowadays is couples taking turns, taking care of the baby, magakhala ebusuku, luvelo, empathy. That is love. So I think that is something that we can also practice, doing things to make someone's life easier or showing love through actions. So, nangabe kude imali, sipheke imbuya yethu nelipalishi asithi masibuya la sibuya khona khanze babas uphekile lapha. I understand. Act of love. Let's see another act of love. It's a flash. Guys, I'm getting flushed with love. You see what gifts do? But you know, it doesn't have to be Starbucks, guys. Get your people gifts. It's still the love season. Get them flowers. Get them. Listen. Anyway, we'll get to the gift parts. But yeah, I love this. I can't wait. I can't. Like, oh, Starbucks plus come with manuals. Like, this is. Thank you so much. Please reveal yourself. Please. I want to send a thank you message. I'm big on words of affirmation. Like, I'm a good communicator. At least I try to be a good communicator. So yeah, I want to write you something. Please reveal yourself. Okay. Oh, actually, our next point on love languages is receiving gifts. So the thing about gifts, guys, it doesn't have to be something expensive. It just needs to be thoughtful, I think. It needs to be thoughtful. It needs to show that you put thought into it. And I hope whomsoever brought this gift for the show reveals themselves, because for me, this is very thoughtful. I think they paid attention to what I need and what I love. I do love coffee. I take it every day, every morning. So, oh, okay. Okay, let me just do this so that even if you join the podcast here, you already see what's cooking. I'm so happy. You see what gifts do. And then you're like, I saw a comment that was like, is gifts about women? Is Valentine's about women? But generally women like nice things. So one of the things I've learned from men are from Mars, women are from Venus, is that for men it's about it's about huge things intermittently, like huge few things. So when you read into utanza menu, menu, if utanza PS5, budget for a PS5 for 5 years, but I'm saying PS5. But for you men, us, it's about little consistent acts. So mato kumbulele stock sweetie, ukumbulele ribbon, ukumbulele chocolate, ukumbulele nalo I love you, go WhatsApp. We need to be reassured from time to time, because you don't. I start doubting it, shame. I start doubting it. So I hope more Starbucks packages so that I feel loved. But yeah, anyway, receiving gifts, and I was on gifts. Yeah, so I hope, guys, it's still the Valentine's season. I hope we'll show more appreciation and love through gifts. Handmade presents, symbolic items, letters, anything that says I was at the mall and I thought of you, anything that says I was traveling and I thought of you. And the nice thing about gifts is that they stick, so even when you're not around and I'm using your gift, automatically you come back to my head. And that is us cultivating love, because take it from Claudia, love is not unconditional. I tell you, love is not unconditional. Love exists for as long as it is cultivated. And now we are learning the ways to cultivate love. So another one is quality time. I love quality time. It's one of the love languages that I love so much, because you're giving someone undivided attention here and you're creating meaningful moments. I think one of the times that I normally try, and I understand that it becomes harder as we grow older, as we become busier, because sometimes with life being so hectic, let's say there are kids. I don't have kids yet, but I do observe and I do listen to podcasts, to observe people with families. When there are kids, there's jobs, there's a side hustle. It just becomes so hard to give each other attention, which is why Jordan Peterson normally talks about husbands giving their wives 90 minutes per week, just talking. Let her rant. Let her blurt. Let her tell her why she's so angry at you, the things that she's not comfortable with, the things that you're ruining. And I know right now it sounds a little bit one-sided, like, oh, so love is about women. No, it's not about women. But ultimately, it tends to be more associated with women, because we're taken to be very emotional people and affectionate people and emotionally needy people. But I promise you do this, you get to benefit from it, because we're coming into a time where we're realizing that you as men, you are emotional as well. And I think cultivating these things, it's beneficial for both. It's beneficial for both. So the more time that you spend giving each other this undivided, like, just partition the time, make the time, So when I talk to people, one of the things that I try is to look them in the eyes. And while we talk, I even nod, I shake my head to say, I'm listening to you. I'm paying attention to you. And I'm going to reiterate what you've said. And I'm going to explain it in how I've perceived what you are saying. Like, we're having a conversation and I'm going to be like, oh, so basically what you mean is this. So this is how you show that I'm paying attention to you. But I'm not going to lie, it is becoming a little bit harder. Like, sometimes I'm on a call with people I love and I'm multitasking. I'm preparing for this podcast, me showing my love language to you, investing my time, quality time. This is for you. But anyway, and I end up being like, and I noticed that my brain is not fully present. But what I normally try to do is to schedule for these calls, that this is 100% your time. I'm listening to you. It is about you. So I hope that during this season, this love season, and all other seasons, we try to be mindful of these things. We spend quality time together. And one of the ways to spend quality time is also through, it doesn't have to be that you're sitting, because sitting can be quite confrontational and some people find it hard to talk when it's confrontational. One of the activities that I would do is to invite people I love for a walk let's go for a walk together. It becomes easy to talk about things. We're not looking at each other. We're just talking. You know, there's this podcast where Trevor Noah was with Stephen Bartlett, and he was talking about liming. That is something that they do with the guys, where they just sit and talk. No plans. Nothing major is happening. No one needs to feel like to be talking about their goals or whatever. You just talk about life. One of the things that you could do this with your children is cooking together, is a shared activity. You know, I think someone showed me love this week. They were like, Claudia, let's do something. I wanna spend time with you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my schedule is so busy. I don't have the time. And they were like, Claudia, if you come to Manzini, please let me know. I'm going to run errands with you. I'm going to carry your bag around. I'm going to go grab lunch for you. And I was like, how do I say no to that? I do have errands anyway. And they came with me to the bank, to the shops. So basically, we're able to beat two birds with one stone. And it was so lovely. So I think in terms of spending quality time together, we could also be creative about it. And, you know, sometimes it's like, how can I show love? I think it's very difficult. One of the things that I practice with regards to also spending time, which could be a sign of giving love. One of the things that happened early this year, my mom's sister, my aunt, passed away. And it just happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? My mom is sad. I don't know what to say. I can't say any words of affirmation at this time. I just didn't know what to do. And I remember I had a meeting in like 30 minutes, and I just told them at work that my aunt just passed away. I can't attend the meeting. And I just went to sit beside my mom. Didn't say anything, didn't do anything. I just sat there, you know. And eventually she was like, you don't have work. And I was like, I canceled to be with you. And then we started having a conversation, and she started opening up. And I just noticed that sometimes love isn't asking for too much. Sometimes love is saying, I'm here. I'm within your vicinity. I'm within your space. It's giving that sense of comfort to say, I am present. So I think these are one of the things that we could also be trying in our relationships, you know, to show people that I am here. Now, another one is, the last one is physical touch. Oh my gosh. I'm going to show another gift because physical touch is the one that I struggle with. So to just forget about that for a minute. Oh, you remember, guys, I said I wanted to be feminine this year. I love it. I think this one is my favorite. This is so cute. This is so cute. Oh my God. I can't wait. Can anybody pour me water? Pour me water. Can anybody pour me water? I want to use this already. Like, oh my God. Thank you for the act of service. Because I want to use it already. That's so cute. I need you to reveal yourself, guys. Your shame. I want to return this love. Love is also about reciprocation, you know. Okay, so physical touch. The reason I say I struggle with physical touch, I think physical touch requires a lot of, don't get me wrong, I think I'm very comfortable with physical touch around women. I think my guard is down around women, but around males, it's very hard. I don't know how it is for you ladies, but, you know, I once had a speaker on social media talking about how women generally are wary. And one of the ways that men would love women is through listening to them and just allow them to feel unsafe until they feel safe. So the more they rant, the more they show these tantrums, and you actually reaffirm that you are present by just being around and not going anywhere. It's the more that they're going to let their guard down. So I think most of the time my guard is very up around physical touch. I struggle with it. It's something I'm actively working on. But, you know, expressing love through physical touch is basically hugs, is through holding hands, is through cuddling, is through pats on the back. And, you know, I think one of the things I notice is that I think this is a love language for men. I think men love physical touch. Tell me if I'm wrong. But I think this is their biggest love language, physical touch. And I don't know, for us women, it's gifts and money. But anyway, so ladies, give the men physical touch. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm thirsty. Thank you so much. So yeah, let's work on the physical touch. And you know what? The good thing about physical touch is that it's not just that we want physical touch. Scientifically proven, when we touch each other, we release oxytocin, which is a happy hormone. And one time I was listening to the Goffmans. So the Goffmans are very reputable Western researchers. They're a couple that they were researching on love for the longest of years. I don't know for how many years. So they just write on love, on marriage, and all of that. Very credible researchers. And one of the things they talk about is that men who kiss their wives on the forehead for about 7 seconds before they leave the house, they tend to live longer. And actually, it's been proven that married couples, like people who are in relationships, tend to live longer, you know? And I guess that's because there's a lot of healing that goes through. There's a lot, you know, one time I was listening to Dr. Paul Conti, and he was talking about how love is a survival thing, which goes back, love is conditional. Love is a survival thing, because it's basically saying two is better than one, you know? So you're cuddling when you're sleeping, you're releasing all of these hormones that make you feel safe, loved, and happy. You help each other with bills. You help each other with raising kids. You help each other with brainstorming. One of the things the taxi drivers were saying to me is that, why do you think we're able to grow up with these parents, even though things were not so monetary? It's because, like, the wives didn't leave just because the husband said, I don't have money. They stayed together. They brainstormed business ideas together. So I think much of love is also that, which is sort of like a culture or a tradition that we're losing as young people. With everything that is being said, the noise with social media and everything, the moment we don't get the instant gratification or the love bombing, we feel like, oh, I'm not loved. But much of love is survival, is going through things together, giving each other trust, loyalty, being there for each other. I remember one time I was listening to the CEO, forgotten his name, and he runs the CEO of Verizon. He runs this multi-millionaire company. And, you know, when they ask him, Lewis Hall is in the School of Greatness, is asking him, what do you think helped you through running a business and everything? And he says, you know, sometimes you barely have time. It is true. And you see these people once a week. But knowing that whatever you are doing, there are people who got your back, who are counting on you, and there's people to go back to. It gives you strength, you know, it gives you energy, strength, courage, and all of that. So partly love is a survival thing. And I think if we look at it from that lens to say, this is a person that I'm going to draw energy from, this is a person that I want to bounce back to when life is coming sideways at me, we have a greater chance of making it at this love thing, you know? And we look at it from an angle of it is something to give to than to take from. It's a difficult topic, really. Okay. Now, let's keep moving. I think, you know, we've discussed the love languages. I think also love is also understanding your partner's love languages. As I talked about us coming from different backgrounds, I used to make this analogy that if you buy me oranges and you're like, oh, I love you, I bought you oranges, I'm not going to feel the love. If for me, love is apples, somebody who gets me apples. So maybe the love is in me communicating with you that I love apples. But also, if you bought me the oranges before you could actually know that I love the apples, it's important for me to acknowledge the oranges, celebrate them, be grateful for them, and acknowledge that the thought counts. And then nicely, respectfully, sometime when we're having a conversation randomly, I let you know that I love the apples. But I think much of love is also understanding each other's love languages. As I said, I think men's love language is physical touch. So you gotta share more of that. And I tend to think for us most of the time, us women, we tend to make love about ourselves a lot, and we forget how to give love. I understand men are initiators, we're reciprocators, but we just end at the receiving stage and not reflect on the giving stage. How do I give back? So I think it's very important to also learn how to give to the male figure. We're very good at giving our children, and I think this is because it's maternal. But again, even with the children, you as they grow older, you have to learn how to love them. Because my argument normally is that parents tend to love us based on the love language that they lacked. So now they're giving it to me and they think that's what I need. But I have an entirely different love need. So it's also about the conversations as well, that this is how I appreciate to be loved. So yeah, learn each other's love languages. Maybe in this Valentine's season, you could sit down and be like, how can I make you feel loved? Have I been a good lover? I ask those kinds of questions, when I'm in relationships with people, even in friendships, I make time to ask them, do you feel loved by me? How can I show you that I love you? And, I think another misconception around love that we make is that because of all these many noises that we get from people out there, is that just because somebody loves you, because they love you, they're not going to do that. Someone who loves you is not going to do that. And I think someone who loves you is going to do that. I think they are. And I think people are not having very transparent conversations about the things they deal with, the things they tolerate, the things they forgive in families, in relationships. They just tell us like, I don't take that from a man, or I don't take that from a woman. Oh no, I think they are taking a lot, because it's hard to be giving each other 100% all the time. I think it's hard to be giving all the time, consistently at the same pace, and being able to predict what the other person needs and not step on each other's toes all the time throughout a lifetime. Because when you look at it, sometimes we struggle even with loving ourselves. We struggle with giving to ourselves. When you look at the fact that self-love is exercise, is having positive self-talk, is finding your purpose and living a meaningful life, is all of those things, but they're so hard. We struggle with being consistent with them. So how much more with giving to the other person? We're definitely going to temper with trust, with loyalty. We struggle with giving love, we struggle with giving God the right love all the time. So maybe the conversation should be prevalent about how much of kindness should be there, of forgiveness, of tolerance should be there. I don't think people always do bad things or hurt other people because they are bad people entirely. Sometimes there are situations that push them to doing whatever they do. I think I'll keep on bringing up the love, because how we love is shaped by how we love. Love wires how we think, how we perceive the world. And we'll keep on loving people who are depressed, who have trauma, who are struggling. So much patience and forgiveness needs to go to this. I think some of you know that I'm not very religious. I'm on a journey when it comes to religion and all of that. But I love the Bible because I take it as a very wise book. And I love its definition of love. So on 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4-7, it talks about how love is patient and kind. It's not envious. It's not boastful. Imagine how many times we're envious and boastful, right? But yeah, not arrogant or rude. It does not insist in its own way. It is It is not irritable or resentful. How many times do we get resentful? And that is why, to an extent, for me, the definition of love is educating each other. I think when we get into these relationships and you figure out that your partner is doing something that maybe embarrasses you or doesn't sit well with you, or you feel disrespected, don't just quit. It's about educating each other. Hayi phela mangumva wendi kanje kuhlata lo lokwendako. Yabona? No, bamfu awubendi kaso. No, it's about educating each other. Educating each other about how to approach the world. Educating each other about how to love each other, about how to heal, about how to talk to each other, about how to love each other. It's communication rather than just quitting. I think, was so big on quitting nowadays, was so big on having standards. And I understand why. There's boundaries. The world talks so much about boundaries nowadays, about self-love, about standards, and all of that. And I think it's partly why we're becoming so lonely and more isolated. We're less patient with each other. We're less kind to each other. We're less forgiving. We're less trusting for obvious reasons, for valid reasons. But the reason that we keep on having these conversations again is that we don't forget, is that we go back to the basics. And when we are in relationships, I think it's very important that we're not afraid when we hurt each other to say, did I hurt you when I say this? Did I trigger you when I say this? And we talk about these things. Continuing with the verse, it says, and it does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. And this is something that is always quoted at weddings, and it is something that extends far beyond romance and marriages as well. And, you know, when you look at it from the biblical and Christian point of view, namely, most of the time we talk about agape love, which is unconditional, selfless, and rooted in faith. It is the ideal. It is the ideal. And I love ideals. Normally, when you talk of philosophy, we're talking about the ideals, what we're aspiring towards, you know. But I understand that when it comes to the reality of things, that's not how it is. And which is why I want to talk about the not so glamorous and flowery parts of love, because I think we tend to get so disappointed when we get to realize what love actually is. So always think about this. Advice from Claudia and advice to myself. As we get into relationships, let's remember the ideal. The ideal keeps us in check. The ideal gives us something to aspire to, that we'd aspire to as friends, as couples, as mothers, as children. But that's not where we live. We live into the day-to-days of, we're going to be mad at each other sometimes. Sometimes we're going to feel like we hate each other. Sometimes we're going to feel like we doubted. So I don't know how many times I doubted that my mother loved me, that my siblings loved me. You know, that's the reality of things. But the more we talk about these things, the more that we increase the chances that we can get to affirm each other during those conversations, that we actually love each other. Where's my gift? I want to forget the gift. What's next in the gift? Oh my God. This is so... a journal. So, you know, we could write about this love. We could write about the goals that we have about our love. I think this is so cute. This is so cute. Oh my word. This is a love language. No, I hope they reveal themselves. Look at the glitters. Oh my God. Guys, get your girlfriends something before the Valentine season is over. It could even be a pen and a journal. Girls love cute things. I don't know, girls, what you're going to get your man. Give them hugs. They want physical touch. Or else, if you don't want hugs, you better speak up. You better speak up, my guy. Yeah, you better. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I'm going to be journaling this. Gratitude journal. Oh, so cute. Okay, I'm going to say my words of affirmation to you right here. I'm going to say, thank you so much for the thoughtful gift. Trust that it came to the right place. I'll make the most out of it. I'll use it to write my thoughts about the podcast. I'll use it to write everything that I'm grateful for, that I'm looking forward to. And while drinking my coffee, and I hope it multiplies where it came from. So yeah, you are loved by me. All right. Okay. Now let us keep on going. All right. Where were we? Okay. All right. So just a reminder that for love, normally we talk of love as if it's something for just relationships, men and women, men and between women. But another thing that I want to touch on is that it's very important to invest in friendships. I think we take friendships lightly, and sometimes we just feel entitled to friendship love, but it's not. We need to invest in friendships. We need to check on our friends. We need to dedicate just as much as we invest in platonic love. We need to platonic, I sometimes confuse this. As much as we invest in non-platonic love, we need to invest in platonic love. So have surprises. And honestly, for the longest of time, I thought I was a good lover in friendships until I'm just reflecting and I'm noticing that I think I've met friends who are amazing at loving. It's pushing me to study how to love back, to give back. Sometimes we just get so used to receiving and we feel entitled to love. Always reflect, when was the last time you showed the person that you love that you actually love it, that you love them, and make it known to them. So let's do thoughtful surprises for them. Sometimes it's just popping up with simple lunch. Sometimes it is a call. Sometimes it is giving them a genuine compliment. Be detailed about it. Like, I like you so much because of the way that you think. Or, I really took your advice because it worked for me in that way. And I think sometimes it's just studying the stage of growth that they're at. If your friend is starting a nail bar business, buy them a kit, gel, something, If they buy a car, tell a gift yasendlini or something, just like we do in my baby shower, we bring something for umvana. So study at which stage of growth your friend is at and support them with it. And just ask them, what kind of support do you need? How can I support you? And also do hug each other as friends. I think it's important when you're together, do put phones away to genuinely listen to each other, because your friend ends up committing suicide and you're surprised as everyone else. But really, you never spent time to know what's going on in their lives. So I think that's important. And let's also show love in our families. And I think one of the ways that we could show love in our families is try creating traditions. It's very hard, it takes time, but let's try to create traditions. Guti, we have game nights, we cook together, check-ins, we schedule for WhatsApp calls. Nalama groupin, makwakhiwe group. Ningaphumi. Always ngale hlonga idlebele liphumako. Ningaphumi lama groupini. Noma ngabe bayakunyanyisa, noma ngabe bakubuta ukuthi wena sola usebenzi. Hlala ngoba nibe defensive. Uthi vele sola ngisebenzi kuyabhetha, But the only way is that we're going to break generational trauma, I think it's just if we try, and we're going to step on each other's toes quite a lot. We need to forgive each other. Like, we need to have a heart that lets things pass. And it's hard again because everyone is talking about boundaries nowadays. But I think we really need to balance things. But quitting mustn't be the first option. Maybe setting the boundaries, because setting the boundaries is communicating how I want to be loved. It's saying, I value this relationship so much. I do not want to lose you. So I'm going to teach you how to love me. So yeah, what I want to say is, at the end of the day, love isn't about romance. It's the foundation of human connection. At the end of the day, psychologists will talk about how it actually wires how our brain works. And whether you are celebrating Valentines with a partner or with friends or with family, remember to practice loving yourself as well. You could literally decide to love yourself this month. Even if you're not pouring to other people, you're just pouring to yourself. And also remember that love is something that we do. It's heavily facilitated by actions. People are not going to read your heart. People are not going to read your mind. You show it through acts. And you make people feel loved. So yeah, let's go out there and spread some extra love. You know, roses are red, the sky is blue, sugar is sweet. Huh? You can write poems and all of that just to, build that foundation for the love. So as you know, guys, we end every episode with a quote. And today I have 2 quotes because I was like, there's a lot of quotes around love and I loved all of them. So one of them is going to speak around unconditionality, because I believe that love is really, really unconditional. And, if we believe that it's unconditional, I think it's going to give us the urge to always work on showing people that we love them. So it says, in love, this one is for love is unconditional. In love, there are no buts or ifs or whens. So unconditionality being the ideal, what we're aspiring towards, maybe we should remember that there isn't a why to why you should love a person. It shouldn't be a means to an end. One of the things I normally hear is that if you have a why for why you love a person, what about the day that why disappears? What about the day when that reason disappears? So no ifs, no buts, just. And the other one is, we accept the love we think we deserve. By Stephen Chbosky, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I think this makes sense. We accept the love we think we deserve. And which is why we'll struggle with love quite a lot, because we'll feel like, I don't deserve this kind of love. But I think when you reflect in your life, there's so many times that you've been shown acts of kindness or of love, but you didn't receive it as love because you thought it is not the love that you deserve. So if ever there's somebody that tries in your life, I think just put a magnifying glass on that and treasure it and hold it dear. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that was a kind of lot to unpack and all over the place, but at the essence and the core of everything, it was about love. Let's spread love. Let's show love. Let's feel love. I hope you have an amazing, happy love month. Once again, we will ask you to subscribe, to share with friends, hit the notification button, follow us on our social media pages. I'm Real Talk with Claudia. You can look for me on Claudia Boana on all of my platforms. Follow TFE Network. We love you. And keep on giving us that feedback. Guys, I actually have a couple of your messages here, and I think there'll be topics for future